Hey guys, it's Adam from Premium Poker Tools, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate how you can use the equity calculator to study hands that you've played. And I'm going to do so by going over a hand that I played myself. So this was maybe one of the most fun hands that I've ever played. I ended up losing the pot, but I had a lot of fun playing it, and I'm excited to go over it in this video. So I'm playing 1-2 at Red Rock. We're very deep stacked. I have about 300 big blinds, and I'm against this opponent who had about 500 big blinds, so about $1,000. So this guy that I'm against, he was like crushing it. He was a very good aggressive player. He was barreling a lot, and it was working. And he's been caught bluffing a couple times. Um, so, I've actually seen evidence that he is capable of, you know, like triple barrel bluffing. I think he got caught 3 or 4 times. Um, and my impression is that his range was definitely unbalanced towards bluffs. So he was bluffing more at a frequency higher than, he's supposed to according to GTO. So in theory, you should be able to exploit him by bluff catching because he's bluffing too frequently, which is very uncommon. Um, but at the same time, it wasn't like too crazy. He definitely wasn't one of those guys who's just throwing money in randomly. Like I thought he picked his spots pretty well, um, and his bluffs were intelligent. And just because he was bluffing, like he was unbalanced towards bluffs doesn't mean that's bad at all. Like the bluffs were mostly working. People caught him bluffing a couple times, but overall they were working more than not, and he was winning a lot of money doing it. So he was picking his spots well. He was bluffing a lot. He was a good aggressive player. Um, so I had won a big pot before with pocket aces to bring me to 300 big blinds, and you'll see that this might be relevant later. I commented to him and to the guy on my left who was also deep stacked that like this is going to be crazy. We're so deep stacked, like we're only getting it in with the nuts or something. So keep this one in mind. So let's get on to the hand. Pre-flop, early position guy limps. The main villain is in middle position and he decides to limp behind. I'm in middle position with pocket nines and I raise to 20 and both of them call. So I just want to mention earlier in the game, this guy was raising pretty wide pre-flop. He wasn't limping a lot. A little bit later on, he started to mellow down pre-flop and um, limped a little bit, like limped behind a little bit and didn't play quite as many hands. So he kind of toned it down at some point. So I'm not sure how to read into his limp behind. Yeah, we'll get to that later, but I'm not quite sure what to say about that. So anyway, I raise over the limpers to 20, both call. Flop is $60. Let's say after the rake, flop comes 4-3-2 with 2 hearts. So I've got my overpair, but any set minors could easily hit this flop. 2 players. It's very deep stacked. It's a interesting spot. So flop $60, 4-3-2 with 2 hearts. Early position guy checks. The middle position, the main villain, bets 45 into 60. I call, and early position folds. So now me and him are heads up. So now the turn is $150, the 90 plus the 60. The turn comes the 2 of spades, so now we have like 2 flush draw possibilities. Okay, so I think that at this point we each have about 535 behind. So now my opponent checks. So he bet the flop and checked the turn, which is interesting. I, at this point in the moment, thought to myself, he must have been taking a stab with like, I don't know, like king jack or something on the flop, just kind of looking to stab, thinking whatever. So I bet I feel like I'm ahead at this point. I feel like he's gonna play his value hands aggressively. So I feel like I'm ahead. So I bet 100, and then he decides to jam for 535. So, remember we're playing 1-2, and he's jamming for 535. A lot of money in the pot. So, I have about 1.8 to 1 pot odds. The pot at this point is 785, and I need to call another 435. So that's about 1.8 to 1. And I need about 36% equity to justify calling. Okay, so now with all of that said, now let's move on to analyzing this hand with the equity calculator. So first, let's put in our cards. So we have 9 of clubs, 9 of diamonds. So to do that, I'm going to shift click the 9s, and I'm going to say 9 of clubs, 9 of diamonds, and close this. So now let's enter the board cards. So we have 4 of spades, 3 of hearts, 2 of hearts, and 2 of spades. Okay, so now that was the easy part. Now the hard part. Let's try to come up with a range for our opponent. So the way I like to break these situations down is I want to ask myself, like, how much equity do I have if he has all value? How much do I have if he has like a 3-to-1 value to bluff ratio? What about if it's like 2-to-1? What if it's 1-to-1? So that's kind of how I'm going to go about this. So if he has all value, let's see what kind of value hands can he have. So we could have pocket 4s for a boat, pocket 3s, pocket 2s. He could have a straight with 5-6. He could have a straight with ace-5. He could have 3-2, possibly, if he played that pre-flop, 3-2 suited. So he could have ace-2. Could have ace-2. So how many combos is that? That's 4, 8, 10, another 6, so 16, 17, 18, 19. So I think that's about all of the value that he can have. I don't think he's playing ace, limping behind with an offsuit ace-5 off, ace-2 off. Don't think he's doing that. I don't think he's playing 6-5 off, or any of these other 3-2 off. I don't think he's gonna limp behind with that. Like I said, he initially was a little bit crazy pre-flop, but then he toned it down and was playing pretty reasonably. So I'm not gonna put any of that in his value range, and I'm not sure what he's doing with suited 2 kind of hands. He could have king 2. I'm going to leave that off for now. Queen 2, jack 2. I don't really think he's limping behind with that kind of stuff. So I'm going to use this as what I think is his value range. So let's simulate here just to kind of get some numbers going. So we have about 6% equity versus, if he's only on value. So let's write that in, 6%. And obviously that's not enough to justify calling. We need 36%. Okay? So now let's look at some other possibilities. What if he has a 3-to-1 value to bluff ratio? So he's, value betting a lot, but also has some bluffs. So let's see. We counted 4, 6, 10, 13, 16, 18, 19. So we counted 19 value combos. So let's try to come up with about 6 bluff combos for approximately 3-to-1. So what can he be bluffing with? Well, there's some good hands that he can have to bluff with that have a lot of equity. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna try to add in flush draws. So I'm clicking spades and hearts. So now whenever I add hands, only the heart heart and spade spade combos are gonna be added. So let's see. So he could be bluffing with ace three of spades. He can't have ace three of hearts because it's out. Um, ace four, he could have ace four of hearts, but not ace four of spades. Possibly, um, you know, he could have, let's just say, ace six and ace seven for argument's sake. Again, I'm not sure if he's actually limping behind with that pre-flop, but let's just kind of say for argument's sake that's what he has. So that's been six combos. So 19 to 6, 18 to 6 is 3 to 1. 19 to 6 is pretty close. So when he has a 3 to 1 value to bluff ratio, let's simulate and see how much equity we have. So now we have about 21% equity. So adding in some bluffs really helped us. So now we need 36. Like, that's still not nearly enough, but it's a big jump up. So now what if he has a 2 to 1 value to bluff ratio? So, now with 19 value, let's try to come up with 10 bluffs. So we have 6 bluffs, so let's get 4 more. So I'm going to add in pocket fives. And I'm going to set this back to what it was before. So there's 4 combos there. I'm going to say he could be bluffing with pocket fives. That's a solid hand to bluff with. Because he's got the straight draw and, 2 outs to a boat. So, okay, now he's got a 2 to 1 value to bluff ratio. Let's simulate. And we see that now we have about 32% equity. Okay. So now let's take things even a step further and say, what if he has a 1 to 1 value to bluff ratio? So what if he is bluffing with, I don't know, let's add, so we need to come up with 9 more combos. So, I think he's going to be bluffing with his flush draws, but I don't really see that we can add in many more flush draws because, his flush draw, he's probably raising a lot of his good suited hands. So it's a little tricky. So maybe we'll add in 5-4 suited. I think that brings us to 13 because, he's got the straight draw plus the pair of fours. If he gets another 4, he'll have a boat. So that's 13. He could turn 4-3 suited into a bluff. That's 15, so we need 4 more. Let's just add in, let's say king 6 and king 5 as flush draws. So I think that is a 1 to 1 ratio. So let's just count to make sure. So let's count the bluffs. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 6. Oh, sorry, no. This is not a bluff. This is a value hand. So we're still at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then the fives is 16, 17, 18, 19. So now what we have here is a 1 to 1 value to bluff ratio. So let's simulate. And here we have 42% equity. So we need our 36. So if he's bluffing at a 1 to 1 ratio, we can justify calling. We have a little bit more equity than we need. If it's 2 to 1, then we're a little bit behind. If it's 3 to 1, then we're pretty far behind and we shouldn't call. So, with the equity calculator, it's not going to give you an answer. The equity calculator can't read this guy's mind and tell us what his range is. That's the hard part. That's kind of where we as poker players need to come in and use our judgment to figure it out. But it can tell us how much equity we have against different ranges, and that's very helpful. With this information, I wish I had this in the moment when I was at the table. But yeah, with this information, we can kind of ask ourselves, do we really think that he's bluffing at this kind of 1-to-1 ratio or something close to it? Because this is really what we need to justify calling. So I'm not going to get too much further into that. We could spend a lot more time going through all of these hands and talking about how realistic they are. But to kind of wrap things up, in the moment, what I decided was all of his bluffs had a lot of equity against me. Whatever he was bluffing with, either an ace or a flush draw or whatever, even if he has overcards, if he's bluffing with, I don't know, Jack 10 or something, he has a lot of equity against me. And so with that, in addition to the fact that I know he was very aggressive and very good player, it seemed like he was capable of pulling off this bluff. Still, not many people are going to be bluffing, this huge, super deep stack, 300 plus big blinds, pulling off a check raise bluff here. That's kind of what I decided to myself in the moment, and I decided to fold. I'd love to hear what you guys think. This was a really fun hand. Yeah, I definitely would love to get input from you guys, but hopefully going through this hand kind of gives you some ideas about how you can use the equity calculator to study these spots to get a better feel for them and improve as a poker player. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.